Hey guys, here's a video I did not think I would be making today or anytime soon. Uh, I have been vocal in some of my other videos that I'm not a big Glock fan or supporter, but here I am with a brand new Glock, a Glock 19X. So why did I buy this? Well, the announcement that Glock made today is that they are removing are discontinuing their pretty much entire line of Glock products minus their slim Glocks. So like Glock 43s and Glock 48s, those I believe are still going to be manufactured. But pretty much all the 19s, 17s, 20s, 22s, all of those are going to be discontinued in favor of what they're calling the Model V, which is the Roman numeral 5. And I think this is because of the California announcement for banning Glocks due to their like ability to accept switch devices, which turn Glocks from semi-auto to full auto. And these devices are not like forced reset triggers. Forced reset triggers are you pull the trigger, the device, the trigger itself then forces, after being fired, the trigger to reset, which means you have to pull the trigger again. The switch attaches to the back of the back plate here, and some of the internals now are converted so that when you pull the trigger and hold the trigger back, it just fires off the full mag. So it ends up being a real full auto and is a big problem. So do I think that should be illegal? No, I think it's really terrible. I think I wouldn't, like, even if they were legal, I wouldn't put a switch on my Glock. So I think it's really silly that they're doing that. But now Glock has responded to California's kind of ruling, and they're saying that they're not going to sell these anymore. So as of November 30th, they're not going to ship these out to stores for purchase. Okay, so what is this video going to be about beyond explaining what's going on there? This is the firearm. It came with a loaded mag in it. It comes with 2 other mags, and it looks like this is a 17 rounder. This has an extended base plate on it. I don't know if that like extends the capacity at all. I haven't loaded these yet, so I don't know. But if it does extend the capacity, this could be anywhere from like 17 to 20 rounds. I don't know. It looks like it might add 1-2 more spots in there. So those are the mags that it comes with. It comes with some back straps. The thing that I find interesting here is that it not only comes with the tool to remove the pin, but it comes with an extra pin, which is nice because, as you can see, you have to push a pin out there, and if you lose this pin, you're kind of screwed. So having an extra pin in the box is quite nice. It comes with a magazine loader here. Nice if the magazines are too springy, but it seems like these magazines are quite nice. You shouldn't have a problem loading them to capacity. And finally, it comes with a thing that nobody ever uses, a slide lock. So I'm going to shove this back in here. What is going on with the Gen 5 Glock? So the Gen 5 Glock is a big improvement from the Gen 3. I did a bunch of videos on the Gen 3s before. I had a friend that let me borrow his. So let's talk about some of the things I've noticed that are different from this, from the Gen 3. So first of all, we have our optics cut, which is nice. We have, in this particular model, I did get a threaded barrel. They do make, obviously, Gen 5s without. And they also make a bunch of Gen 5s without the optics cut, which I think is weird. In today's day and age, it doesn't make any sense not to just have all of them optics cut. I know people like shooting irons, but again, having an optics cut does not prevent you from using the iron sights. As you can see, totally fine. All right, so the magazine release button, big improvement from the Gen 3. I'm not very knowledgeable on Gen 4 Glocks, so I don't know what the deal is with that. But they have widened up this button. It's very nice, very springy. It's not stiff feeling anymore, so when I press it, it feels good. When you drop it, it drops the mag free and clear. I really like that. Easy to insert. Glock has never really gotten into the magazine well game, so you basically still have to insert these perfectly straight. You can't insert at an angle. It's very difficult to do so. Whenever they do release a magazine well upgrade, that will be easy to do. You'll just be able to pop it up there and put it in. I imagine that they attach down here. They probably attach through the backstrap hole here. So there's that. Okay, we're still on Glock tack rails here. This is in need of some upgrades in my mind. I think the Glock tack rail with just the one slot is pretty outdated. Putting in just a few more notches would allow you to have the modularity and custom where you want your light to be, depending on what light you have. But everything here is technically an upgrade from the Gen 3s, except for the trigger. The trigger is still terrible. I'm going to show you. So the reset here, when I pull the trigger, there's a lot of travel. And the funny thing is there's like a fake wall. So when I pull the trigger and I get to about here, that is what I would consider to be the wall. There's no more play. But if I squeeze it just a little bit more firmly, we would expect to hear a click. But watch what the trigger does when I pull it. There was like this much travel after I hit the wall, and then you hear the click. All right, so we'll do the reset. Obviously not with the magazine inserted. Here's the reset. I'm gonna release now. There's the click. So this should be the wall, but watch, I'm gonna pull my trigger again. And look, it's traveling again. Doesn't make any sense. I think this is a terrible trigger. I think for a modern handgun that should have all of the standard features of a modern handgun, I think that's pretty terrible. I do have my Smith & Wesson here to show you guys what I'm talking about trigger-wise. And I will clear the firearm so that it is clear. You can see no round in the chamber. But here's the trigger pull of a Smith & Wesson. That is the take up to the wall, and I'm going to pull. Nice crisp click. And then you have your release for the reset. Very nice. So what do I think? I think that Glock is kind of the original innovator in terms of making a striker-fired firearm in the first place. So they did the world a service there. But the problem is that they stopped innovating exactly when they did that. So that was the last time they innovated at all, was when they first manufactured the firearm. Okay, so what do I think? The Model 5 is going to come out. I don't know when. I would assume probably November 30th, when they stop shipping these out, we will start seeing them pop up in stores. I don't know what's going to happen with the trigger. They might change the internals on the trigger itself. They might make it so that the back plate isn't removable anymore at all. So this plastic notch right here, and I'll use this as a pointer, this little plastic notch is what they did to try to prevent switch ownership. And for some reason, this isn't good enough in California. So they said this, because it's easily removable, because it's just plastic, shouldn't prevent people from putting switches on. So they banned all Glocks. I don't know how I feel about that, because technically, even if you had an aluminum frame or metal frame, you can still technically remove a notch. I don't know what's going to happen when they try to install a backplate that's not removable, because even if you're talking about the removal of stuff, you could just mill out a backplate. It's harder. The average person isn't going to be able to do it, but just because it isn't easily done for the average person doesn't mean that somebody's not going to go out there and do it, especially for the types of people that want to modify their gun illegally in the first place. So I don't know what's going to happen with all that. I think it would be a really bad look for Glock to go out and put out the Model V in the hopes to kind of work with California on this, and then just have California say, no, Glocks are still illegal anyways, because they still technically accept these devices under the modification of X, Y, or Z. So that is going to be happening. We will see what occurs. And at the end of the day, I wanted this because it's kind of my, historical piece of my modern era firearm. So when, 30, 40 years from now, people are looking back at historical guns from this era, this will be recognized as one of the firearms that is a, you know, the modern day iconic gun, right? So just because I don't like it doesn't mean that other people can't appreciate it, and doesn't mean that it's not good for me to own. Most of what I'll be using it for is comparison, because I view this as kind of like the standard. So if I do buy a new firearm, it would be nice to have a Glock so that I can compare it and be like, look, this is the trigger, these are the irons, this is what the grip feels like, these are the internals. Finally, last thing I would like to mention, I'm going to take the slide off and show you the things I do like about Gen 5 Glocks. My biggest gripe with the Gen 3s has been, taking the slide off is miserable, has been that the spring is terrible. So I didn't bring out one of my Gen 3s like the RXM, but this is much more akin to the modern springs that I'm used to. It looks like it's a 2-stage spring, which is very nice, and it feels very good. You can see the spring rotates on the inside as you pull the outside spring. So there should be, and we'll rack the slide a few times just to show, there should be a much improved feel to this slide. And I do think that that is the case compared to a Gen 3 Glock. I don't know much about Gen 4s again, but it's nice and clickety-clackety. You don't hear the screeching of the spring. I'll do it slow. What you hear is the sliding of the slide on the frame grooves there. This hasn't been lubricated or oiled. It's still new out of the box, very bone dry. Some firearms come new well lubricated, but this is just bone dry. So when I lubricate this and go out and take it to the range for the first time, you shouldn't hear some of that scraping, but it should sound very nice. Clickety-clackety. So, I don't know if I would rush out and get an upgraded spring for this. This is probably fine. The only reason you would do so is if you were trying to tune in your recoil, but that's where we're at. So if you have any questions, if you have any corrections for something that I've said, again, I'm not a Glock guy. I don't know a ton about it. I think everything I said was correct. But drop a comment. I'll respond. I appreciate it if it's a correction. And thanks for watching, guys.